Hello, in this video I'm going to share my story of how I overcame anxiety and panic attacks. Now this is going to be quite a long video, so get settled, get comfy, but if I just say, hey, I had anxiety and I overcame it, thanks for watching this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, you're not going to learn anything from that. So these short videos people seem to love don't always teach you much. So let's get straight into this because it's already going to be quite long, and I hope when you watch this it will give you some hope that you can overcome your problems, and also you'll understand why I say some of the things I say in my other videos. But let's get going. So the story begins years ago when I was living at home at my mum's house, and I decided I wanted to move out. Because that's what you do, right? You grow up, you move out, you get your own place. So I decided to do quite a big thing for me. And this is an important point. When I tell you this problem, you might think, well, how's that a problem? That's nothing, I could do that. Maybe you could, but I'm not you. And this is the thing. If you have a fear of driving or flying or whatever, your problem will seem silly to other people, because they're not you and they haven't been through the experiences you have. So this is what I want you to take from this video about how you might look at this and think, well, how could that ever be a problem? Well, the problem was I wanted to move from where I am now in Birmingham, which is in the centre of the UK, because people all around the world watch my videos, and I was moving to a place called Cornwall, which is a beautiful part of the UK. It's southwest tip, so I was going from the middle of the UK to the southwest tip, and it was about 240 miles. And I've been there a lot on holidays and I loved it, but I didn't know the area. But it was a big, exciting move. Now there is tons about that I could say. I could spend an hour talking just about that. I'm going to keep it as brief as I can. But I moved to Cornwall. And I moved there, and I remember I went down on the motorway with a friend on December 22nd, just going up to Christmas. And I filled my Ford Focus I had at the time with all my stuff, my possessions, whatever, drove to Cornwall. But I could tell even before that something wasn't quite right, because when I'd been there and I'd been looking at places to live, I felt a bit funny. Couldn't explain it, never had it before. Actually I had, that's a big part of the story, but I hadn't had it before and I felt a bit off. But anyway, I moved my stuff there, came back December 23rd, had Christmas at home, and then I'd said to my mum, I'm going to move there probably December 27th, 28th, 29th, I'll move there and I'll be gone for good. And I could tell something was wrong because I just didn't feel right, but I didn't know what was wrong. I felt a bit off. So I drove there, and I think it was December 28th I went down, I think from memory. And I got there, and when I walked in to this flat, where there's actually a studio, really funny part of the story, I didn't even realise it was a studio and not a flat. That is relevant, we'll talk more about that soon. I moved in, and the first thing I saw when I walked in was the landlord had bought me, because I was renting, they'd bought me a dehumidifier. Well, that's just what you want to see, isn't it, when you walk into your new home? If you don't know what that means, a dehumidifier is when you've got problems with mould and damp, and it sucks all the moisture out of the air. And funnily enough, just this morning I put the TV on and there was an advert for a dehumidifier. So anyway, I moved in, but this is where the story really begins. I can hear you saying, get to the point. This is all the point. You'll see at the end, you'll understand why you need to know all these things. So I lived there, and I think it was about maybe the day after I moved in or 2 days, I just had this feeling like something's wrong. And I started getting like weird tingling in my hands and my arms, and my heart was going a bit faster. And I had this overwhelming feeling. I never heard voices, but in my head, it was as though a voice was saying, get out, get out, get out. And I was thinking, what? Get out? What? And I felt terrible. I felt sick. I felt like I was going to pass out. And I didn't know what was going on. I was shaking, I was sweating. And I had this awful, what it was, anxiety, panic attack, call it what you want. It was horrible. And I thought, well, I must have picked up an illness or something. I must have got a bug. So I thought I'm going to go out for a drive in the car because that normally makes me feel better. I've had this thing since I was a kid. This is all relevant to the story of whenever I drive, I just feel fine. If ever I felt ill as a kid, I'd go in the car, I feel fine. If I was feeling a bit sad, if I was crying whenever as a kid, I'd go out for a car ride, I felt fine. Cars have always made me feel better. I don't know why, they just do. So I went out in my car and it stopped. As soon as I got in the car, immediately I felt fine. And I driving around Cornwall, felt fine. Got back to my flat, horrible feeling, get out, get out, get out. So what is this? And if you've had anxiety, you'll know what I mean. When you first have it and you think, what is this? It's weird, am I ill? Have I got something wrong with me? Anyway, I'll cut a lot of the story out. I had such bad problems, I had to move back to Birmingham after only, I think it was about 2 months, 3 months, I can't remember. Long story, and if people want more detail, I can get a whole video about my adventure in Cornwall. But to cut a long story short, too late. I moved back home. And as soon as I came back home to Birmingham, I felt fine. No problem. And I thought, oh, well, that was weird. And I thought, well, maybe it's because I moved, such a long way away. It's maybe not that far if you live in America, but in the UK, 240 odd miles is quite a long way to go. If you go much further, you're going to drive off into the sea. So yeah, I spent about 18 months. I went through quite a lot in 18 months. So things kind of settled back into normal. And then I thought, well, I'm going to move out again. So I moved out, and can some of you spot what the problem is at the moment? Have you got any idea what my fear, phobia, or anxiety, whatever would be classed as? I thought this time I'm going to do the opposite. So I moved just to the flat, masonette. It's important to use a masonette. I moved to a masonette just round the corner, literally around the corner from my mum's house. It was about a 5 to 10 minute walk. Now, just be clear on this because this is important. A flat this is how I define it. A flat is when you've got like a shared communal area with doors that lead off into private rooms. So it's like a hotel. That's like a flat, an apartment. So I'm doing this with language for people worldwide. It's when you walk into like a hotel and you've got a corridor and you can go into different rooms, then they're all private. That's what we call a flat. A maisonette, which I believe is French for little house or small house, something like that. It's when you've got the same thing, but the entranceway is also on its own private. So it's like a private door, like on a normal house, but you go in and then one of you lives upstairs in the house and the other one lives downstairs. What we call ground floor in the UK, I think they call first floor in America. And what we call the first floor upstairs, they call the second floor, I think, in America. So anyway, you've got your own entrance. It's like a house like this, but I was living upstairs, someone else was living downstairs. This is all important. And when I moved in, I moved my stuff in, and I remember saying to my mum, I was quite open about this. My mum knew. I said I had this awful experience in Cornwall, and I said, well, I won't have that again, will I? So I walked around the corner, moved in the flat, and I thought, oh no, it's back. It's that weird thing I had in Cornwall. Well, I'm only living around the corner. I'm in Birmingham, still doing the same job. A large part of what I didn't like in Cornwall is I didn't know the roads. It was hard to teach people to drive when I didn't know the area. But I was in Birmingham and I knew this road. I'd driven down it loads of times. And I had this awful sweating, shaking, the voice, not the voice, but the feeling, get out, get out, get out, stop, you're in danger. It was an overwhelming sense of dread, doom, the end of the world. I remember thinking it's the end, it's all going to finish. I've got to get out, get out. I went for a walk out my flat, out my masonette. I was fine. As soon as I walked out the front door, happy as Larry, walking around, felt fine. Went for a drive, felt fine. Went back to my mum's to say, how it's going. I was fine there. Went back in my masonette. Horrible. Panic attack. what is going on? Why am I panicking about what? But I didn't know what it was. This is what it's like. If you've got anxiety, you can't explain it, can you? Now, you just see what I say in my videos from experience. You can't explain it. Because sometimes people do say to me, oh, you haven't lived through this, you don't understand, you haven't had anxiety. I have. Not when I drive. That doesn't matter. Driving is irrelevant. When I drive, it's fine. That doesn't matter. It comes up in any situation. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be flying. I don't know what it was. Was it a fear of moving? I don't know why what you classed it as. But that's how I experienced it. I've had all the feelings you've had when you drive a car, if you're watching this with someone with driving anxiety. Because if you don't know, I help people overcome the fear of driving. But that's not what I do. I'm not going to pretend, oh, that's why I became a therapist. No, it's not. It's nothing to do with that. I didn't know anything about therapy at this time. This was before I was a therapist, before I knew about therapy. I knew about hypnosis a bit and NLP, but I didn't know much about therapy at all. I hadn't trained. This was 9-10 years before I even touched on therapy. So anyway, I moved back home. I had to. I couldn't stay there. I felt terrible. I spent 3 months in there and I moved back home. And I was getting quite worried because I thought, well, what is this? And you know this feeling, right? If you've got anxiety, what is it? This is embarrassing. I can't move home. I mean, at the time, I was running my driving school, first drive. I was working on my own, driving instructor, self-employed, very independent as a person. This is weird to me. Why can't I move out? What's this weird thing I get? Panic attacks. So I remember waking up one night. There was a night, which was in January, and I'd been involved in a car crash on a driving lesson, quite a bad one. I think we had 4 cars, three cars crashed into us at the same time. Long story, but that's how I got my dash cams. That's why I invested in dash cams. That's how I grew First Drive. So it all had a positive outcome in a way. Otherwise, this channel wouldn't exist if I had never had that crash. And I remember getting home from that crash, and I was not scared by it, but it was a quite bad thing. I had several drivers get angry with me, and they was all getting together and saying, we're going to say it's his fault. They're the learner, they're the instructor. They was all getting together and saying, let's make up a story, let's say it was their fault. And they were all kind of ganging up against me and this learner. That's another story for another video. But anyway, I remember around that time, I woke up one night having like a cold sweat. My skin was damp and sweating, and my clothes, my pyjamas, were sticking to me like this, and it was horrible. And it was like the crash mixed in with moving and whatever. It was awful. I remember waking up in a cold sweat, and I remember my neighbour's cat was screaming. I think the cat was having a nightmare. What was the cat's name? Elijah. Elijah was having a nightmare. What a terrible time. So I moved back home. And then I stayed there for 4 or 5 years. I can't remember. Quite a while. Because I was too scared to move out. I thought, well, I can't move out. I'm going to have that thing. But I thought, you know what? Maybe it's because I rented. Because I really didn't like renting. I resent renting because it's dead money. I don't want to pay rent out, while I need to own somewhere. So I bought my own maisonette. Long story, but I bought a maisonette, even though I was self-employed, which can make it more difficult to get a mortgage. I did it, and I was really proud. And I thought, this is it. I've beaten it. I know what it was. It's because I was renting. And I remember when I was renting the maisonette, the man coming along and putting the rent sign up outside, the to let sign, and I was so pleased I was moving out. And I thought, oh, maybe that's what it is. I was renting, so I'm going to buy. So I bought my own maisonette, and it was a big thing. It was summer, whereas I'd always moved out at Christmas before. It was summer, it was hot, it was a different area, quite close to where I lived, 5 miles away, but not too far. And I got all my stuff, and I moved in, and I remember walking up the stairs in this maisonette, and I heard children playing on a trampoline just down the road. They was bounced up and down screaming. And when I heard that, and I thought, oh no, not again. It was back. Whatever this thing was back. Now I'm laughing about it. This is the thing, when you've overcome it, you can laugh about it. Because there'll be a time when you look back at your problem and think, that was stupid. What was all that about? And long story short, I won't talk about it too much, but I ended up having to sell the place I just bought. Luckily, long story, the estate agents, I'd had a bit of trouble with them, but they helped me move out. And I actually made profit. I sold the place, even though I sold it months after I moved in. I think I lasted 4 months or something like that. 5, 6 months. Long story, I'm keeping it short so I can. I sold the place for more money than I bought it for, which I didn't plan on doing, but I ended up selling it and making a small profit. But now I was in real trouble. And the thing is, interesting fact, I'm going to tell you a secret I've never told anyone before. Well, it's not really much of a secret, but it's a thing. Do you remember when I made Lucy's lessons? If you don't know what those are, I made a series of driving lessons where I filmed me teaching someone from start to finish. I filmed those at the time. I was going through this anxiety, moving home to this third place that I'd bought. And I wonder if you could tell from the videos how I seem off. And some people say I was talking too fast. People say, in your videos you talk so fast. I couldn't understand what you're saying. You was talking, you need to slow down talking because I can't understand what you're saying. And I was talking like that so quick because at the time I was feeling terrible. And I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that from those videos. You can probably tell I look a bit tired and I'm not quite with it. Then I was safe to be teaching and all that, but I felt fine when I went out teaching. It actually helped me. But I didn't feel fine when I was at home. Making Lucy's lessons, though, I put those online, made a little bit of money from them, and thankfully that allowed me to buy this house I'm living in now. And I thought, right, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to move out and it's going to work. So I bought the house and I thought maybe that's what it was. Maybe it's because I'd lived in flats, masonettes, and I'd always lived in houses up to that point. So I bought this house, and I always remember the day I moved in. It was a Friday, and I did this driving lesson. I remember with the people driving along these fast roads, one of my favourite subjects to do. And I remember coming here, getting the keys. I met the person who used to run the house outside. They gave me the keys. I walked in, and I felt fine. Where's that feeling? And in 7 years I've lived here, I've never had that feeling again. Never had it. Why? This is the key thing people want to know. How did I get rid of my anxiety, panic attacks? I've got no idea. I didn't do anything. I didn't go through therapy. I didn't know about therapy at this point. How did I fix it? No idea. Don't know. The point is, I didn't fix it. Now, if you watch my videos, you've probably heard me say about don't do exposure therapy. If you wonder why I hate it so much, it's because I did it. I've never revealed that before, but I did exposure therapy. All it did was move the problem elsewhere. Now you realise why I say what I do in my videos. For those of you who say you don't understand, you haven't been through this, you haven't lived through it. I have. And that's why I know so much about it. I don't know why this house have never made me feel bad. The only thing I can think of is because it looks like the house I came from. It's got a staircase, although the house didn't have a spiral staircase, but I've got an upstairs and I've got a downstairs. And I don't know, maybe I'm just tricking myself into thinking it's the old house. I don't know. I can't explain it. I've got no idea how I did it. But I am happy here, and I've been happy here for over 7 years. And I've never had these feelings again. They never came back. But did they? Because when I became a therapist, I brought this up. Because when you become a therapist, you have to practice on each other. You pair up or you get into groups and you practice solving each other's problems. And I brought this up, and some very interesting stuff came up about my childhood that I'd long forgotten, which kind of gave me an insight into why this had happened. Now, I won't get into that now because that's going to be for part 2. This is going to be about 20 minutes long already, this video. But I hope you can understand how I have had anxiety, and I know what it's like. If you come to me for help with driving, I know what it's like. Yes, I wasn't driving, But how would you like it if you felt like you do driving every time you went into your house? Wasn't nice. And people sometimes say, oh, well, that's not as bad as driving. You always think your problem is worse than other people's, or they've got it easier than you. It's not true, because it affects everyone in different ways. So I'm going to start to wrap this up, but I hope you could see from my experience, and that's just one experience, there are other ways and other things I've had which have given me similar feelings. So I do know what it's like, and I've overcome them. And this is why I say in my videos, it doesn't have to make sense, because when I try and make sense of this, I don't know. I can't explain why I used to go out doing driving lessons. I even started working evenings again. I used to go out doing lessons because I felt fine, and I would do everything to get out of my house and out of my flat. And this voice, get out, get out, get out, danger, stop, get out of here. It's what you have when you drive. I just had it when I was in my home. Why? I don't know. So I wouldn't say it's fully fixed, although I feel fine living here. I think it's just a psychological trick. I think because I've got a staircase and an upstairs and downstairs, it's almost like I still think I'm living where I used to. But not only is it kind of fixed, but when I go back to where I used to live, I don't even feel much for the place. I used to be happy when I used to live in this place I didn't like. I used to go back, any excuse I could. I used to say, oh, I've had a letter go to the old address for me. I'm going to go back there and pick it up. And it was an excuse to go back home, and I felt great. When I go there now, I just feel nothing. It's not like an escape. It's just, well, yeah, so what? And it's not that I don't want to go back there, but if you said to me, now, yeah, there's a letter coming for you, I'll pick it up in a few weeks or whatever. I don't have that feeling of get out, get out, get out. So you can overcome it, but I wouldn't say I really fixed it. I kind of forced it out. And I know it went elsewhere, because there is another problem I have, which I'll maybe talk about in another video. If you want me to do that, let me know in the comments, give this video a like, whatever. I don't normally ask for that kind of thing, but you know, if you do that, it'll show me that there's interest and I can talk about these other things. So the point of this is, I know what anxiety is like. Yes, you can fix it on your own. You don't have to have therapy. But I wouldn't say I fixed it. But even though I did therapy, just going to have a quick drink. Even with therapy, it didn't work on my other problem, which is why I always say, some people say to me, oh, you shouldn't be negative, you shouldn't say your therapy doesn't always work. I'm just being honest. I've done sessions on my problem with therapists who are quite good, or they claim to be really good, and they have success with other people. Didn't do anything for me. Didn't work. The irony of me now being a therapist and working with people, and I know what it's like both ways. I've had success and I've had failure. I've had other problems I've completely overcome, and I've had others that didn't go. So I know what it's like. And it all comes down to changing how you think by finding the root cause. Did I find the root cause of this problem? No. But I did kind of force it out in a way, but I wouldn't say I fixed it. But anyway, I hope that's helped you, and check out these other videos of mine on the screen now, which might help you even more. If you want to contact me, you can get me through my website, firstdrive.com. But thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you again soon for more videos.